All right, hello. So I am doing this series on making up the bootleg of Saturday of Ludacris. Sorry, let's start that again. This is a video of the making of the track series with my YouTube channel and whatnot, and this is the track Weed Stash, which is Saturday Ludacris. This is a private link, so I've been sending this out to DJs and people I know, and I'll put this in a link in the channel. I'm just kind of making like a little scarcity kind of fun thing, as in like, you know, when people bought vinyls back in the day, there was only a certain amount of copies that went out to certain DJs. So this is just more in the sense if you're someone that knows me or, you know, you're going to be able to get a copy of this record and so, and you know, it'll just make it the thing. If someone comes up to you when you're playing this record or another DJ, they'll say that it's this guy Kardano and blah 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 to create a word of mouth type thing. But let's get into the production part of it. That was a full out master, so this is going to be probably a little bit quieter. Let's see. It's a little bit quieter, but let's so as far as it is, I mean, this is the whole session. You know, I have my drums that are brown, everything to do with instruments like as in bass and stuff like that, blue. I've only used one effect throughout this track, and then the other effects are used within a tool room plugin called Infinite, which turns off and is disabled. But let's start with the main printed mix, since yeah, I run, as most of you may know, I run like an SSL kind of box that sums channels into, so it sums about eight channels, and I spit the audio into it, and it comes back out as a tube mix. I'm just gonna kind of start pulling out analog settings just to have that ready. Look at all these windows, right? Fun, right? So if you watched the previous channels before, you all may know that I, you know, do the usual here, which is taking off stereo signal in the low end, and it's just cutting it right off. Just a preset of Safara, which gives it a more 3D type of feel. There is not much effects in the sense to bring 3D out, but in sense of the keyboard and the melody that kind of happens. That's sorry, the effect, but I'll kind of show that later on. But you can even just tell without stupid mouse with yeah, there we go. Connection's back. This is a very bass heavy track. I mean, obviously the stereo width is going to happen with the percussions and all that other stuff. Sorry about that, because I am panning everything at different sections of the track and giving it space within the stereo spectrum. Then we have a plugin called this plugin is just the secret sauce to anything that I'm doing right now, which is that Magma. This is a Waves plugin, and it's just giving it hardcore saturation, and I'm really pushing this plugin to the limit in a way, and not. Where can I? I'm leaving examples out, so let's pull the master out. Usually when I'm at the last process, I'm glad that I'm showing people this, because most of the records that I've been showing lately have been produced years ago, so this is more a year ago, so this is more currently as to what I'm doing. So I usually, when I'm doing this process, I'm looking at the computer screen over here because I have so many windows up, and just testing out that everything's staying green and punchy, right? As you know, it's like if I boost this up a little more, it starts getting red, right? So I just like to, I try to stay within, oh jeez, hopefully, I think I lost the settings a bit. It was like this. So yeah, usually this plugin does a great deal. Like the volume changes drastic, even if you check it here. Like it's a lot of oomph to what it is. And if I have a picture of the SSL, and the volume knob is just basically down. So I'm just coloring the sound more to bring it up. Yeah, and just saturating it more, and this plugin really just gives that punch that's there, and then I kind of just check that everything is working within the plugin, the dynamics, that it's staying green, the balance, yeah, loud. Just as long as it's green, then I'm happy, and then not sure what's going on here, but I guess because it's so low, nothing's showing up there. It was a lot different when I was mixing before. And then I have the center plugin that's on I think this is on the master. Let's see. So I'm just automating it at certain areas of the track. I don't know what's going on here, but it doesn't look like it's showing up, and it should be. Weird. So usually what I was doing with this track is that when it first kicked in, the drop, like this drop, I felt it just didn't kick in hard enough, and I had it boosted at I think 2D. Just touching all these settings at 2 dB. I don't know what happened, but whatever. So everything was like kind of at 2 dB with the first kind of mix and post, like right here. Oh God. Yeah, so and the sides were turned up a bit just to give it more, and then as soon as we got more into it, it would kind of fade down a bit. But really, at the part of here, when this melody kicked in, there's a big boost here. I got a big weed stash. Just so I felt that it would make everything sound wide. Yeah, and I also did that at the climax here. Yeah, and that just kind of brought things out to in general. And then I have bass room to kind of correct the basses as to what I'm doing to the track and correcting my mixing, because I'm not in a super professional room. But yes, there's treatment, which helps. Yes, and you can even the results are a lot different. Right, there's still pounding. There's still a little pound there, but not as much life as to when you add these plugins in to actually punch it down. And these plugins are used last. I don't mix within them. I do all the mixes first. I do the whole mix first and then add that in after, which is just the last finishing touch. Magna, as you can see, the chain here, it's all in order of there. Magma goes first. Magma goes first, and then the rest go in. So we'll just have to make a new. Let's just mute the. I don't want to do too crazy with stuff right here, but I guess we just won't save the thing when we close it. So we can start with kick drums. Just gotta make sure everything's fine. Oh, and then as you can see here, I have the insert pushed in on 1, which is the Pultec, and everything in this channel is going to every, everything going to this channel is pretty much mono. So kick, clap, snare, and the bass line. Everything goes there for that. Then in channel 3, it's mainly the percussions and the New York compression mix bus. And then in channels 5 and 6, it's all the sample and the keyboards and stuff like that. Anything that's kind of stereo field there. And then 7 and 8 is just the effects like reverb and stuff like that. I'm really wanting to get a subbing mixer that I have more control of the pan pots and more channels. I mean, the dream subbing mixer to have would be 16 channels and just to pan things out, because you can give more of a stereo image with the pan pots of analog rather than within the box. For my opinion, I kind of feel that it just there's more high definition of sound being colored within the shape of a mix, I feel, used with analog and consoles. I mean, if you do listen to a lot of big records, most of them are mixed on consoles. Yes, they do say there are people who make them on, they do mix with plugins, but I do still think the majority of big records nowadays are still mixed on a console. Even though they say that people mainly mix in the box, but I mean, there's so many converters and all these other mumbo jumbo things being used. Yeah, I don't know everything, but it's just from my thoughts, it's just the opinion. So let's start with channel 1, or let's start with the sorry. Now it's the insert, sorry. And really, Christ. Really, I'm not really doing much in the channel 1 and 2 insert of the SSL there. It's just kind of just 1 dB a boost, 800 kind of like in the low mids, and just kind of attenuating it. And it's basically more for color and a little punch. You can even just tell even when playing it. That's without. With. Oh yeah, sorry. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. There's a button right there. It's not that hard. All you got to do is click it. That's all you have to do. Yeah. Sorry. Let's go back to doing this. Like, it's really hard to kind of just concentrate with my kids in the background making all this noise on YouTube. But gotta do what you gotta do. Then we had just the bandwidth. That's kind of. I honestly don't know too much of the bandwidth thing, but I just do it in the sense of with my ears and what it's doing. And then we're just boosting the 5K area, as you can see, just so you can have everything a little more prominent of that kind of low mid area of or kind of low mid, high mid area. Just perceive better hearing of the snare, the clap, and just that low end of the kick drum that doesn't really leak through the cell phone nicely. That always seems to be the problem, is a kick coming through the cell phone because it's so bassy. And that's kind of the reason why I like using like 909 kicks with not too much of like a sub attack that just has like a thunk. They're not powerful kicks, but they bang enough in a club. I don't know. And then we're just kind of just cutting off 20K, which is really nothing you can kind of hear. And I don't know. It's just there's some of that garbage that's there within the snares and stuff like that. I mean, it is good to keep, but the curves on the Pultec are very shelfy. So when you're attenuating, it's kind of just doing like a teeter-totter thing from what I can know. Please quote me if I'm wrong, because I know there's other engineers that are way better than me at doing their job. I don't know everything. I just use my ears, and if it sounds good, it works. Okay, that's all. You want to go in the comments and tell me I'm doing something wrong? I'd love that. Here we have, now we're on to the kick drum, and really I just do all the subtractive EQ with the kick. Maybe we should kind of go into a loop here. Let's, so that's a vinyl plugin going on. If you keep hearing all this clicky and clacking, I did that for a reason with the sample, which I'll let you know. But yeah, just the typical 145 to give a more smiley thing to the kick and stuff. SSL EQ just at 100 hertz there. It's kind of like a setting that just it's pleasant when using, because there's already enough kind of sub within it. There's already sub there, and I want the bass to be heard more. I know we do dance music, but that's just how I like to mix. Then saturation here on kind of the high end of it, or let's just say that it's divided in half of your high and low. Just about 66% of saturation for the kick here, and then spank, which is just to give it more like boom, and then I pushed in punch and blah blah blah. This is a pretty cool plugin, Parallel Aggressor. I discovered it through a producer named John Sign, watching his channel. He's got a great channel and knows his stuff, and has got probably one of the most awesome studios in the world. One of the most awesome studios, and it looks like he's rebuilding a studio. Go check his channel. Cool guy. Here we go. Then we're on to the clap, just subtracting things. I do a lot of subtractive mixing with Fab Filter because it's just great. It tells me what it is. I do use my ears, but from trial and error, I just let it do its work. I just like to get things done fast because there's only so much time I have in the day doing stuff. So I have a system that I can just do things like that. Gotta have it like clockwork. Then we have the Harrison EQ. This console, there's a history behind this console too, that a lot of Michael Jackson records were made on the Harrison console from back in the day. But really just kind of boosting the low mids, and it's just giving it a little more thump in that clap. You can even just kind of hear the right. It's not like a ton, but it's just a little more thump within it. And then just the LA2A, giving it a lot of reduction. And works nicely within the mix. Kind of most like they're all different. This is the kind of like off time claps, which give everything a little more swing, and then more off time claps. Right. And then just Harrison console and stuff like that. LA2A within the clap. And then we have the hi-hats, which are just, I'm just cutting off garbage that's in there. Probably doesn't look like it even. I'm sure there's some stuff that exists on the low end of that hi-hat, but just pulling stuff up, not boosting things. And then using ozone to kind of just give it a little more width. If you're listening on studio monitors, you can kind of hear like a little ingredient of the hi-hat kind of coming out a little. And then just a cymbal here. Nothing special, just no compression, nothing. Just leaving it as is. Doesn't need it. Then we have a close hat. Yeah, just a close hat kind of filling the gaps, with the hi-hat. And kind of clashing it a bit, but they're panned out, so, sure there's clashing maybe, but it works for what's going on. I didn't do anything. I'm happy with it. Then we have just the snare, rolling stuff out. I just use like a very per se like a rim shot of a snare sound, and just using the Harrison EQ to kind of boost things up, and the distressor to just making it crack. Yeah, you can just hear a massive difference, and everything ends up getting lost in the mix without this compression here. So there's a lot of it's yes, and it's just a 6-to-1 ratio, which is yes, it's some compression there, but things get really lost within that part of the track if the compression's not added with the snare. Then we have just some toms to fill stuff, right? Taking some stuff out in the. Oh, you need that open? No problem. Just some stuff to. Oh, jeez. Excuse me. How do you give these to children? Oh, there we go. Here you go, Desmond. Just spot those for the children because they need them to drink their water and stuff. So yeah, onto like the toms. This is kind of like not a low tom, but I'm just kind of fleshing stuff out and not letting the sub frequencies live because there is some sub there, and just everything's kind of cut off at 200 hertz with that, and bringing out the low mids with the Harrison again, and some saturation with just the little tube magma. Then we have the low tom, which is just kind of filling in more groove. I try to produce within the track, like if there's empty pockets of certain things to do it, and I use like the drum monkey to really draw in that stuff. It's a quick drum machine to use, and you just kind of click and go at it. And if you look at my live streams, you can see me do that, play with it. It's a really go-to plugin that I like to use as a drum machine. And then low toms, pretty low, and I wanted a little more. I wanted this to kind of live in the low end of bass a little. As you see here, it's not. I don't think it's. I did tune that. I did look this up on Melodyne to see if it was in key with the bass line, which I think it is. So it really lives in with the bass when playing. You can even probably hear that even with the bass. I'm pretty sure that I checked the key on Melodyne and tuned the low tom to kind of be in conjunction with the bass. If not, then whatever. I don't care. It still works. People have been saying this is a cool track. Excuse me. And then we move on to the drum loops. This is a drum loop from Splice, which is in the defected category of Splice. This is it. This is a Splice sample, but it's a defected sample pack. Excuse me. And I'm just using that in general. And yeah, so like the low end's cut out, right? So it's just there to kind of give sustainable groove with the whole track. And then here's another sample, right? Like the kick drums just boom there, right? But not anymore. Even here, right? And you can even just like, these drum loops are necessary because it just gives groove to the track. That's without it, right? Like there is so much missing without it. This is a thing that there's certain things of frequencies that carry tracks, and this is one thing that carries the track because a lot of the things that I was working with were dark. Like the sample is just a really bad MP3 that's super dark, and we'll get to that soon. The bass is kind of dark because I use like a Juno synth. I forgot what one it is. The 108. I don't know, but it's a dark sounding synth for my opinion. It just sounds dark. And I think I'm in G minor, so it's also somewhat kind of a dark key. And then we just have the compression of the drum comp. So all these channels here, as you can see, drum comp go into this aux here. And if we solo, we will hear a difference. Oh, Christ. So if we solo, we will hear a difference. What I've done is I've just kind of shaved things out that aren't necessary within it. Especially just this 200 hertz here to make sure none of that bassy stuff gets in there. And I've also demonstrated through previous videos of why I do it, because you'll check out on the levels plugin that certain things, it's like the low end doesn't come in on the side fields of the track, because it just shouldn't live there. Low end takes up so much energy of your track already. And then we have, just the API. And yes, I'm using a preset, and I kind of muck around with it, but it does a lot, I find, if you listen. Without, then without, with. So it's coloring and bringing life and brightness, I find, with this compression, because these plugins are emulating circuitry of other equipment, so it's bringing that life of that equipment to it. That's why I love the U80 plugins, because you have the card that takes all the heavy lifting of your mixing, and it helps because Pro Tools, it sucks at handling other plugins that go onto the computer for the processing, I find. I mean, and it's gotten better over time, but everyone has, this is why I like using UED plugins, because it takes up less processing power. So let's get to the juicy stuff, which is the sample. Excuse me. So, my God, just trying to get over this. So I basically kind of cook this like a Jack and House track almost. And if you listen to most Jack and House tracks, and even just other classic house tracks in general, I've cooked the whole sample within this instrumental, which helps to give it that groove, and just it's the total blood and guts of it. And it took me a while to kind of figure out the tempo. I even looked on the internet what it was, and then I ended up going on Rekordbox, because I know that Rekordbox is quite trusty of showing the tempo, because I get it, and it would say that it was like 94 BPM, and then I would try to line it up with Pro Tools, and it was like slightly off. And then I tried to do all this like warping stuff, it just wouldn't work. And then I was just like, a couple days later, or like a week later, I ended up going to Rekordbox and putting it in, and it goes, oh, it's 95.5, and I put that in, and everything slammed on. So basically, I've kind of taken a piece of, I've used the LFO to kind of give it the pumping, right? So it's nothing without the track with it in there. Just gives that pumping energy. And then I've kind of just like snubbed some things off that were kind of annoying, because it's an MP3 and it's not a good quality MP3. And then just boosting things up that I wanted to hear, like the voice and a bit of that, a bit of the bass that's left over from tuning it out. And and I guess it's kind of like the low mids area, which is just giving it more life within there. Then saturation with the little tube, probably unnecessary. The fusser, which is basically, I sidechained this to the Rhodes keyboard, because the Rhodes keyboard just wasn't quite coming out of the mix, and this kind of just turns it down every time it hits. It's more an example over there, but let's just keep on this. And then this is just the one knob filter, which is being added. Filter. which is just being automated in the middle because there's not much creativity to be done because I'm cooking the whole sample. Um, I do have the Serato plugin where I can just have the voice there, but I got so far into it where I'm just like, oh, I just want to get this done. And I might as well just cook it like this, just kind of like how they do with Jack and House records and some records where it's just the sample's there. So really, this sample is like I think I had this like at 2 bars in general, so it's very repetitive, what almost makes it feel kind of minimal but tech housey, but still house and just kind of I don't know. It's just groovy. And then I added a plugin that's a free plugin from Isotope, which is vinyl. That's with it. Sorry, that's without. And then that's with it. And I wanted to. It's because also the MP3 had this hum in it, and this kind of masked the hum. And having just the record playing gives a nostalgia thing that you can't hear, but it's there within the record, right? It's the brain. The brain's listened to records before. Maybe maybe not all people. Myself and maybe other older DJs, but younger people probably haven't listened to records before because even my kids are like, "What's that? I've never seen that before." But yeah, it kind of just gives a nostalgia effect to the brain. I'm sorry, this shouldn't be funny. It gives a nostalgia effect to the brain of just kind of having the record going on. It just colors the record a little more when using that. I thought it was a smart move, and then I just have it because I have like cuts here within the record. It turns off, right? Because I don't want the crackling, as you can hear now. I don't want the crackling, and then I can also control the dust and crackle effect and blah, 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 and the year of the record, and it starts getting more degraded in sound, right? Exactly, see? So I figured, okay, the record's made in around 2002, so yeah, maybe they pushed a couple of vinyls of this record. Whatever. So now we move on to the bass. Because this is such a repetitive type track, I figured the layering of the bass was necessary, and really it doesn't have much trade-off in with it, in the sense of it, as in, the breakdown. There's just one piece of the bass that gets. There's one piece of bass that gets cut down, and it's more just the subbier feeling of it, and then as you get in more. And it really just gives that movement of just like that wants to give you that stink face when you're listening to it, like, yeah. And then I just have like the fusser going on with the kick with it, and then also with the other bass itself side chaining into it. So it's basically it corrects like phase issues with the basses. Because apparently it's like when you EQ any low frequencies, there's a mastering engineer who's even demonstrated this, that like you have 3 kicks, you EQ 1 kick, and it'll start to go out of phase a little bit, which doesn't pump hard. And it's just this milliseconds of things. I really forgot the mix engineer's name, but he works on a lot of dance music records and is probably one of the best guys in the world to even mix down your record. Excuse me, Italian guy. Forget it. So I just use this plugin, and it just aligns the phase of the bass to kick in harder. You can even this is it. So that's without it. That's with. Without. You really have to listen closely, but you can almost hear that it's like that. It just kind of, they come together within it. Mixing is all subtle stuff. You have to listen carefully. It takes years to develop. develop it, and it's a very hard and patient road to go through. And like I said, I just do things that work. It's just you just have to listen, and just watch people do things, because a lot of my mixing is just I don't know what I'm doing. Almost I'm just doing it, and it's from watching people and learning, and just and think of where things live within the mix, right? Then we have the Neve on EQ on the bass. I'm busting it at 60 hertz, and I think I was checking. I think 60 hertz is in the key of G around. So close enough. I try to do harmonic mixing, EQing with stuff, but sometimes it's just like, I don't care. I want to use this to color the sound instead of doing that. It's another thing that's starting to get in with audio and advertising people to buy plugins, is harmonically mixing with in key with frequencies, which I'm sure it does help. But yeah, I'm just boosting things with the shelf at 60 hertz, and then I would think it's a bell in here with the Neve. It looks like it is, right? And just kind of bumping stuff at that frequency area of 4.8 kilohertz, I'm sure. And it's probably boosting it up at 3 dB, I would think, or 4. Just to taste, using your ears. And I'm just not playing with that high-end thing because I just don't want anything there to be. Yeah. And even you can tell that the life is just gone with it. And then we're using just the ozone kind of imager that is taking out that is taking out the low end of frequencies of stereo image. We are pan mono, yes, I know, but it does help, and it does. I find when doing this, it gives like this weird life to the bass. I've been told or heard that it's not good to do this, but I keep doing it. Whoops, sorry. So if you could tell, it kind of just gives us a little more like movement of staying away from the kick, kind of, from what I kind of hear. If people say it does nothing, then whatever. Who cares? The track sounds great, I think. And then just the parallel aggressor, heat. Just that, it's the cut in half thing where, it's playing with the saturation of more the higher end and the saturation more the lower end, and then picking the smack because I want the bass to smack you in the face. And then, preserving the low end with the mono kind of push in, and it does, I find, do wonders. Just, you can even hear the bass is a little weaker versus when that's engaged. And pretty much kind of almost the same things going on here because I think I did the same EQ moves because I want these two basses to live together and to be proper neighbors rather than independently EQ them, even though they do sound different, so they're going to breathe differently. But for the frequencies that I want to come out into the mix, I want both of those frequencies to live within that bass line, to come up within the speakers. That is why that move is done. Then we're on to the Rhodes. We can go into here. Let's just do that. And it's just basically 2 chords. And I use like a unison MIDI chord pack that find the roots of the bass line and then slip them in there. And yeah, because you need chords in a song, and it helps to just bring more life to that climax part, right? It's like, sorry, I guess it's not a cool area, but you got your weed stash, right? So like, you got to be happy, I don't really smoke weed that much, not my thing. But it's just like,
I got a big weed stash.
and just like, I got my weed. I got a big weed stash. Like, yeah, I'm happy, right? So those chords are just kind of there, and there was a lot of trial and error playing with the sample because like the ooh ooh part was really clashing with this sound here. I can even demonstrate it. So I even just like in a car listening back, it's just like it kept clashing, and I kept trying to correct things with Fusser, and then it just didn't sound right to me. And maybe because I'm probably using Fusser wrong or something. I know that it is doing the work it's supposed to do, but yeah. And then just the typical side chaining with it, and just kind of picking how intensely I want it with the smooth LFO thing, and just EQing out certain things that shouldn't be there. Then I'm using the API EQ along with a little bit of compression, I think. Doesn't even look like it's doing anything. I thought I did. Oh. I have it on for some reason, and it's doing nothing. I don't know why it's on. Maybe it was a mistake, but whatever. So basically, I'm just pushing everything up at 500 kilohertz, boosting at 4 dB, 3K, boosting at 4 dB, 10K, boosting at 2 dB, just to give it more sparkle. And then we have the vintage Aural exciter to just color things. I use the vintage Aural exciter, especially on keyboards, any type of synth that is a stereo feels type synth, just to brighten it up, just to brighten it up, and yeah. And then we have a Fairchild compressor, just tickling. And also, it is giving it a certain amount of color. I would think it's giving it color. You can't really tell because there's the unity gain of it and all that other type of stuff. Usually, when you want to know if something's doing something, you have to compare it at the same volume. Excuse me. Or so you don't know if it's doing something right. Then we're on to an organ that's just copying the bass line, which kind of gets a little masked with the bass because it is an M1 organ style thing, and in house music and dance music, it's tend to be used as a bass line too. But I'm using more of a higher octave just to kind of complement that part, so when getting into the arrangement, it's not as boring, because I'm introducing things every 8 bars. If you're not doing that, then everything becomes boring within the track, and kind of just letting things live, raising the 200 hertz area just so that there's life within it, right? I kind of feel if that's there with it, it might interfere with the bass, but it probably won't. But this is just what I did, and that's what I felt would worked. Then I used Sentry Tube, just boosting things up at 300 hertz, which is kind of the low mids area. Then the 10K area, boosting up, and then compressing things just with a tickle. That's for the organ. Aural exciter just colors it more, brings it out. The Fusser, because it's clashing with the bass a bit, so it's giving it a little more room. It feels like it just makes it feel one with the bass. Because I think of when I was listening in the car, it wasn't working out, and then it started to work out. And then we have the melody part, which is the M1 synth again. Excuse me. M1 synth is just a great synth used in dance music all the time. Everyone's familiar with it. You know, just side chaining. And then we're cutting off some stuff. Excuse me. And vintage Oric cider. And it doesn't really, it looks like I really added I didn't boost anything. I was just kind of like, oh, sounds fine to me, and it's not, it has its own space, and then fussing it with the sample, too. Yeah, so like now the sample was able to breathe a little more because I felt like it was, it was having its problems. So Fusser was doing that. I was doing this before with like Fab Filter where it would do it, but the processing power with Fab Filter was starting to put things off sample, and it was getting really annoying to commit and do things with Fab Filter to commit. And I don't want to commit certain things. I want to have handle within the plugin. So this is kind of the reason why I got Fusser, and I'm still kind of learning to use it, and it seems to be working for what it is. And then I'm using a plugin called Riser for just an effect, right? Nothing fancy, just plugging off a little bit of certain things I thought were annoying in frequency within that. And then Infinite is kind of working its magic in the automation, adding reverb. The LFO should be working. If not, I don't know why. But okay, I don't know. I thought I had other things kind of going at it. It looks like it's just the room that's working, but I thought I programmed the LFO and the crunch to work. But you know what? The track's done. Whatever, man. That really wraps it up in that area of it. Oh, okay, and then we can kind of, and then there's the auxes of the room. So this is like the Rhodes. Let's kind of go over here to what it is. Listen to that final cracking, that nostalgia in the brain that's just subconsciously there. Excuse me. So this is the Abbey Roads room, a Waves plugin, and it's just giving more life to it, right? It's giving just the dreamy sound of that. I got a big weed stash, just it's dreamy. It's dreamy, and I'm a man. I got a big weed stash. And then, excuse me, and then just side chaining the compression of the room, so when it hits, it's not a blah sound. There's liveliness. It's groovy. It's groovy, baby. And just fleshing out EQ of the room. No low-end stuff that doesn't need to live within. Also, it's taking up too much energy to bring up the kick and the bass. Then just some 1/8 effect of the Korg. This is another UAD plugin using less power. You see that life of the tick dang, dang dang. Even see just more kind of swing to it, and just kind of the same thing here to kind of control things a little. And then flushing out low end, that's just not needed. And you can even tell within the mix now. Excuse me. right? Gets very boring without that. And then we have just an H delay waves plugin, taking out that analog annoying sound. It's better to have the real stuff. I don't understand why plugin emulators do this. It's kind of annoying. It doesn't sound good. And like I don't know. I guess I feel like I'm being pretty biased because I used a vinyl plugin, right? Excuse me. So I know I didn't have that set at 1, but yeah, I've turned off. Just listen to that. It sounds like a spaceship. If you got to really turn that up to like hear that. But yeah. And I just had that on ping pong, and that's to do with the melody. Just if you listen. See, boring without it. And it really leaves like a cool little tail end thing when it comes off of it, right? So like, right? You don't have that there, then it's just like it feels very stagnant and stale. Yeah, boring. You know what I mean? You gotta like have ear candy to spice things up. And then I'm gonna open up another session. And then I will just show you the mastering process, because I didn't have Tom master this as I have him, I have him work on a lot of my records in general, because he makes them sound good. But now that I've kind of found this plugin, especially if I'm going to do like remixes or remix competitions in general, I'm definitely going to use this plugin because I think it sounds great for mastering. Please don't look at this. Don't look at this. There's nothing there. Nothing secret. Excuse me. So, what was I working on? Yes, Weed Stash here. And look at that. It's much louder. So, I just want to pre-save. Let's just save this setting as Weed Stash. Or no, we want to save as settings in case, because I don't want it to go over. Weed Stash. Who cares if it's spelled right? So yeah, this is master plan. This is, excuse me. I've been victim of getting these plugins. I have a Larson one. I have the Lander one, and I think the Lander one is also garbage. The Larson one is good because it's based off a real mastering engineer, and this is a mix engineer apparently that had invented this plugin. If I'm wrong, then someone correct me in the comments, but that's what I've heard. I didn't read everything up on this because I just don't read everything. I read some things, I just don't read everything. But I feel with this plugin, if you don't have a good mix, it's not going to work. You really have to have a good mix to color this, because a mastering engineer in general is actually doing fader moves for you probably, as he's doing width and wide things. So like within the mix, I was kind of doing that a little, but nothing too crazy. So it's probably a little stagnant, and some mastering engineers will probably do EQ moves when they're doing climaxes, and when everything hits, there's a different EQ move. This is just basically kind of a set it forget it plugin, but it does sound great, and I compared it to like masters of old tracks that Tom had mastered, and they were so near each other as in just how it works. So I'm really kind of game for this, and if I'm going to conferences, I feel like I'm going to probably use Tom to master my stuff. But as far as it is, if I'm on a budget, and as things are kind of cracking down with the strike I was in, it's a little harsh. But if I just want to get things done fast, right? It works. So I just have everything at -8 LUFS, and like this plugin is great to check. Yes, this plugin is great to use. So this, when you have it at Unity, it turns everything down, but it's showing you what you're doing, right? So I'm able to kind of tweak and do things, and I can see if I'm distorting things. Like, check this out. This is just to make everything louder. The limiter, I would think. Right, and that and that's -3 left, so that's pretty loud. So it's like, so like that's at like -7, -6 lefts, and it probably could work, right? I haven't really gone aggressive with it, and I should have tried it out with this song, but like, just check it out in general how loud it's gonna be. So but yeah, that's still pretty loud. Like, Fisher's track is like -6 loves. What's that? I don't remember the name of the track. But yeah, like, that track is like -6 lufs, right? So this plugin, I think, is pretty cool if you just don't know how to master and you just want to get things done. Like, even just, I thought it's just cool to just, you know, this is just doing your lows, right? Saturation for thick, high EQ, then cleaning, which is something to do with, see, yeah, removing a buildup up of sounds in the mid lows of muddiness, right? So it's just kind of just clearing out to make things a little more clear, right? It's just clearing things up. Then a multi-band compressor to compress things down, which is probably at a certain ratio. Excuse me. And then smooth, which is another thing. And then I also found that I had a lot of high end within the spectrum of the track, and then tape saturation, and then width. What's cool about this plugin too is when using Unity, you can see like what you did with the previous mix. So it's like, so that's my actual mix, right? This is my mix with adding like the effects. And that's what I was saying as the Unity thing, right? So like, that's just how it is. So yeah, I'll leave a link in the description to get a copy of this track. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment. And yeah, and I'm gonna start doing more of these videos. They're fun to do, and it's cool to share the knowledge of folks. And I hope people can learn things off of me. If not, then I don't care. I'm just doing this for me, and it's fun. But I will see you later. Bye-bye.